All right. Good morning, everybody. Today, I want to talk to you about how to set up ESLint and Prettier with VS Code. Actually, it works with any kind of code editor, but I'm using VS Code. I already created a video a while back about setting up Prettier, so that might be interesting for you. But yeah, this time I want to create a script that you can reuse for new projects, where you can simply type in one command, and then the whole setup is being created. I created a bunch of new projects in the past, because I basically create one Git repository per project, and then I just always had to either manually set up ESLint, or I would not use ESLint at all, because it was just a hassle. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to create a script that I can reuse over and over again, and this is it. So yeah, I think we can jump right into it. There is one repository that I created that you can check out. Actually, let me rename that. I had a typo here. There you go. We have all the instructions here, but I'm going to go over them real quick in this video. So for basically what I'm using to format and highlight my code is Prettier and ESLint. And Prettier is fairly easy to set up. You don't necessarily need a config file, but I like to configure Prettier a little bit to my liking. So this is the Prettier configuration that I have. And then for ESLint, that's a little bit more complicated, because usually I like to have a couple of plugins. So the recommended one, import plugin, then the Node plugin, React hooks, and Prettier, so that they don't get in each way. Okay, and then there's a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of overrides that I use. Obviously, you can adjust those. You can also have different plugins if you want. You can just have the recommended if you want. But yeah, I mean that's up to you, really. You can read up on, I think it's ESLint js.org or something like that. ESLint, yeah, you just Google that, ESLint.org. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you can read up on that. There's a whole bunch that you can do. But basically what we need is one ESLint configuration with its dependencies, and then one Prettier configuration. And yeah, that's it. And then I created that script here, which is setuplint.sh. And I added all the dependencies that I need, right? And you can see there's quite a lot. So installing them all manually, actually this one I'm not using anymore. Installing them all manually and then creating the files and all that always takes some time. So I'm just saving them here, and then going through that. If I'm using Yarn in a project, then I'm using Yarn to install. Otherwise, I'm using npm. And then I'm just creating new ESLint file, a new ESLint file and a new Prettier file in the current directory. Now, for that to work, we have to place these three files, so setuplint, Prettier RC, and ESLint RC, into any folder that is not going to change, right? So these are our template files. So what I do is I have created a folder on the root called scripts, right? But you can place it wherever you want, basically. But since that's, I would say, rather common to have it on the root, doesn't matter if they're called scripts, or you can also call it .lint or whatever, right? But I would recommend it to put recommend to put it on the root. That's your user folder. And then just place it in there. Okay, so we have this file here, and then next to it there's the prettier.rc, and then the ESLint RC. So if you want to, in the future, if you want to adapt the way the files are being created in your project directory, you just have to change these files here, right? Okay, well, with that in place, so hopefully your folder looks somewhat like this, right? With these 3 files. Then you can also already start executing that, right? But I save the command because then I don't need to keep track of where the folder is and so on. So you could run that with something like this, right? Setup lint. That will work. Now what I do is one more step is I open the configuration file for my shell. So I'm using ZSH or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce that, but yeah, maybe you were using bash or whatever. Just open the config file, and then at the end, doesn't matter, you can also be at the beginning, you can place this function, right? Which is basically the same thing, right? I called it setup lint. You can call it whatever you want. Just make sure you call that, you execute that script, okay? And then once I'm just gonna make a new, okay, I was just gonna create a new folder, empty folder, right? We're creating a new terminal. Keep in mind that if you place this in the config file, in the bash rc or whatever, you need to either create a new terminal or source rc or bash rc or whatever, right, to have these changes in effect, or simply create a new terminal, and then you should be good to go, right? Because this file is read every time you create a new terminal. Okay, and now I can just call setup lint. Well, let me create a new project, because we probably want to have that in the package JSON, right? Otherwise, if you don't have an npm project or a yarn project, we're not going to have the package JSON. And then I can just call setup lint. Okay, it's going to install for a little bit. Meanwhile, maybe I'm going to create a source folder, and then index.js. There we go. Okay, it's done installing. And you can see there's the ESLint RC, and there's Prettier RC. Perfect. And that is just based on the template files that we put in the scripts folder and on the root. Okay, and you can also see that there's all the dependencies that we want. Perfect. Okay, well, let's test that. Let's test that as follow. We can, just maybe console log ABC. Very good. And then it tells me no console, because I set it up that way. I think by default it's an error. I changed it to a warning. And then I can say const moment is require moment. And then it's going to tell me that this is not found, right? Because I didn't install and don't have moment installed. And then that this is unused. Assigned, but never used. Okay. Perfectly fine. Very good. And then maybe, just as a test, I'm going to use double quotes here. Going to give me an error. And then when I save, I get the single quotes, and that's coming from Prettier, right? So Prettier is the code formatter, and ESLint is used to highlight any kind of errors. ESLint, in theory, could also try to fix some of the problems, but in my experience, I don't like it that much. I like Prettier way more. Okay, but I still like ESLint to show me, yeah, some code errors, let's say, right? So for example, if I have a typo here, then sometimes I don't see that right away, but ESLint just shows it to me. Perfect. Now, for this to work, you need to have ESLint installed. Not sure if that's installed by default. So this one here, and Prettier as well. Okay, this one here. And then you should be good to go. One final thing is I would set up format on save, editor format on save. That's gonna use Prettier usually. Yeah, okay, these here is gonna say that, okay, if we're formatting something, then use Prettier. And this is just telling VS Code to format the file on saving. You can adjust that however you want. I like to just have it when I save. Yeah, and I think that is it. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's a huge time saver, because I just now need to run setup lint, and I have a base ESLint and Prettier configuration. Okay, check out the repository and do let me know how you like this, if you're gonna use it or not. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, put them down below, and see you in the next video.